Welcome to DevOps Summit 2024. I'm Mark Allen, and today I'm going to present a case study of how feature flags were implemented at Taplytics, why we did it, how we went about convincing everyone that this was the right idea, and a review of what worked and what didn't. It was the beginning of 2021, a time when the world was still navigating the challenges of a global pandemic. I made the decision to take on a new role as the engineering lead at Taplytics, eager to bring my expertise to a new team and tackle fresh challenges. On my very first day, before I even had a chance to set up my email account or fully settle into the role, I was invited to a meeting with the head of product and the VP of engineering. Naturally, I assumed this was just going to be the usual welcome aboard conversation, a meeting to discuss goals, objectives, and how I could make an impact in my new position. Instead, I was met with the surprising news. The VP of engineering had decided to leave, and they were looking for someone to step in and take his role. Suddenly, I found myself being asked to take over the leadership of an established SaaS product. To add to the complexity, the company was right in the middle of deploying a major release. The stakes were high and the timeline was tight. Here I am, fresh on the job, suddenly at the helm of a product and a team I was just beginning to understand, facing the dual challenges of navigating leadership responsibilities while ensuring the success of a critical release. It was a whirlwind start to what would become an incredibly transformative journey. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of exploring the forefront of technology, working primarily within startups, catering to enterprise-level clients. Today, I'm the CTO at Helix, where we're revolutionizing the intersection of e-commerce and gaming. At Helix, we develop cutting-edge image recognition applications that empower brands to seamlessly integrate their e-commerce offerings into video games. One of the highlights of my career was my time at Hootsuite, where I built and ran a team of DevOps engineers. Today, we would have called it a platform team, but back in 2014, DevOps was still new, and we were on the leading edge of creating processes and applications to improve developer experience. At Hootsuite, we built and maintained a robust continuous delivery pipeline and feature flag management application that allowed us to deploy to production multiple times a day. Our goal was to make the deployment process so simple and seamless that, as we often joked, even the dogs in the office could push to production. Here's what we'll cover today: why we made this change, the key drivers and challenges that led to us introducing feature flags, how we changed the organizational culture, the steps we took to foster adoption and collaboration around this new approach, what worked and what didn't. So back to my story. I was excited to step into a leadership role for this product while it was in the process of being released. But I soon found out that deployments were not happening daily, but more likely monthly. Full regression tests were needing to be done in the test environment before it could be promoted to production. This was slowing everything down, as the tests were mostly manual and it was taking days to complete. I saw this as an opportunity to bring a fresh perspective to the table. Drawing on my experience, I aimed to bring some of those methodologies and mindsets of continuous delivery to the product's lifecycle, ensuring that releases were smooth, timely, and impactful, decoupling the frequent deployment process from slower product releases. Throughout my career as a development manager, I've refined a philosophy that focuses on providing the essential tools and processes that empower development teams to thrive. These aren't just technical solutions, they are foundational enablers of efficiency, effectiveness, and most importantly, team satisfaction. A robust CI/CD pipeline is the backbone of modern development. It ensures that developers can integrate their code frequently, detect issues early, and deploy features swiftly. Automated testing is a cornerstone of quality assurance, enabling rapid feedback cycles and minimizing regressions. By embedding this into the development process, teams can test code changes consistently and at scale, ensuring that software is reliable and resilient. Centralized exception management and logging systems are invaluable for maintaining transparency into how an application performs in production. By centralizing error tracking and logging data, these tools provide developers with actionable insights and clear understanding of issues. This reduces the time spent troubleshooting and allows teams to prioritize resolving problems rather than searching for the right log file on the right machine. Feature flags gives teams the flexibility to toggle features on and off without deploying new code. This capability is critical for experimenting with new features, rolling out updates incrementally, and responding quickly to production issues. For developers and product managers, feature flags create a safety mechanism that reduces deployment anxiety and allows for continuous delivery without risking user disruption. It's a tool that empowers the team to improve quickly while maintaining control. The development environment is where developers spend the majority of their time, and its usability directly impacts productivity and morale. An intuitive, well-configured environment ensures that developers can focus on writing code rather than wrestling with setup or debugging tooling issues. These 5 pillars are more than technical solutions. They represent a commitment to the team's well-being and success. By implementing these tools and practices, a development manager can create a work environment where developers feel supported and empowered. Today, I'm going to talk about feature flags. My first step was to understand the needs of the development and product teams and the business and determine a path on how to get there. Coming from a SaaS background, where continuously deploying to production multiple times a day was the norm, I initially thought that could be the ultimate goal. However, I quickly realized that achieving this overnight was unrealistic. Instead, I focused on defining a more achievable, short-term need. When I joined, the team was already preparing for a release. As someone new, I was in a position to directly contribute to the release itself, but this actually worked in my favor. It gave me a valuable time to observe and plan for meaningful change. One of the most important skills as an engineering manager is observation. It's critical to take a step back, watch how the team operates, and resist the urge to impose your own processes and biases. Instead, focus on understanding what is really happening. There was a lot of pent-up demand from the product side of the team and an overwhelming anxiety from the developers. I could see that this needed to stop. The solution was that we needed to deploy more often. From there, the how came into focus. We needed to move away from long-running branches and version control and to short-lived feature branches. The existing CI/CD pipeline worked well, so no need to overhaul it at this time. But there was a reliance on manual regression tests in the test environment before a release could go to production. To resolve this, I went ahead with implementing feature flags for the next release and moving to continuous deployment twice a week. Let's take a look at short-lived feature branches. The idea is that as a developer, you create a new branch for each of the tasks you need to accomplish for your feature you're building. You create the code, write the tests, get it reviewed by a peer, and merge it into main, all trying to do this within a day. The CI/CD pipeline then takes the new main, builds, tests, and deploys it to a development or test environment. We implemented continuous delivery, where from test, we manually, and what I mean is we ran a GitHub action, to deploy the code to production. By keeping the branches small, code is easily integrated into main and tested. Anything that breaks can easily be traced back to the change that broke it. For Taplytics, this allowed us to get code into the test environment sooner, daily, rather than monthly, meaning we could test our changes sooner, see compatibility issues earlier, and be able to experiment with new features and approaches while we're building the product. However, what about if the code isn't complete? What if I haven't completed the back-end changes for the front end that I just made? What then? This is where feature flags come in. By allowing features within different environments to be visible to different users, you are able to hide code that is not ready for production, but still have it built and running in production. The way I look at it is that I enable a feature for myself while I'm building it, enable it for my team when I'm ready to test it with the rest of the features being built, and then hand it over to my product manager who decides when to release the feature to the users. For Taplytics, this allowed us to create a new feature, deploy it to production, and enable it for a few select users. This enabled our product manager to test out ideas of the feature with some friendly users before we had to complete the work, giving us invaluable feedback to what we were building. So short feature branches and feature flags are the what, but the real challenge anytime you make an organizational change is the how. When shifting from quarterly releases to twice weekly deployments, I focused on identifying and adapting the processes that needed to change to support the new cadence. Since successful change revolves around people, I worked to ensure the culture evolved alongside these operational shifts, fostering alignment and collaboration. To demonstrate the progress and ensure accountability, I prioritized establishing clear measurements and metrics to track the effectiveness of the new approach. Bringing in short-lived feature branches meant a change in how work was allocated and assigned. Developers could no longer be given a single massive feature that spanned multiple parts of the application and spend weeks working on. Instead, tasks had to be broken down into smaller chunks, something that could be implemented in a day. With each of these smaller tasks, the team had to ask, should this be a feature flag? It wasn't that every task needed to be one, but asking the question ensured feature flags were always considered. If it made sense, a feature flag was created. This allowed multiple developers to collaborate on the same feature while keeping their work organized. Using feature flags also helped in rolling out new features. For example, sometimes a backend service needed for a new front-end component didn't exist yet. In that case, the data could be mocked. The front-end work could be processed behind a feature flag. This way, the new component stayed hidden in production, but was accessible to developers during the testing to check out functionality and ensure it worked with other parts of the system. When you make a big change to how a team works, it's critical to consider the team's culture. One of the most effective ways to do this is by identifying key team members who embody the culture and get them on board early. I was new to my team, and I faced this exact challenge. At first, I wasn't sure who to approach, but it didn't take long to notice a senior developer everyone looked to for guidance. This person had been with the company for years, had built much of the application, and was the go-to expert for understanding the code and its quirks. Now let's be honest, developers tend to be naturally skeptical of new ideas. That skepticism is a strength. It's what makes them great at their jobs. But it also means you need to build trust to bring them along on a change. For me, that meant focusing on the senior developer. Since I had experience implementing feature flags in other companies, I used that to demonstrate how they could help address the team's challenge with deployment frequency. Their initial questions were straightforward but essential. How do we implement the feature flag framework? And how would we manage unreleased features? These weren't just technical questions. They reflected a need to see the whole picture. First, I needed to decide on a platform and who would implement it. Luckily, Helix, being an A/B testing platform, already had a feature flag component built in. I assigned the task to a junior developer, assuming it would be relatively simple. But here's where my hubris came into play. I didn't know the application well enough to recognize some underlying technical depth. The implementation didn't work as expected, and we ended up stuck. Which is funny, since the Helix UI couldn't use the Helix SDK. Here's the silver lining. That failure turned into an opportunity. To dig ourselves out of the hole, I had to rely on the senior developers. This not only brought them into the process, but gave them ownership of the feature flag implementation. Watching me stumble and recover helped build trust and solidify their buy-in. The second challenge was more about shifting the team's perspective. Feature flags fundamentally change how you think about code, branches, and releases. Instead of using long-running branches and version control, feature flags bring that logic into the code itself. With flags, new features can coexist with production code, toggled on and off for specific users. From the user's perspective, it works the same way as branching. But for the team, it means everything runs in a single environment, side by side. This simplifies development and deployment while keeping things flexible. The question the executive team was asking me was if there was a way to measure the effectiveness of implementing feature flags. DORA metrics are a framework that revolutionized the way that we think about software delivery performance in DevOps. If you've ever wondered how to measure your team's efficiency and identify areas of improvement, DORA metrics are the answer. Four core area metrics are deployment frequency. This measures how often you release your code into production. Lead time for change. This tracks how long it takes for committed code to get deployed. Mean time to restore. This measures how quickly you can recover from an incident in production. And change failure rate. This metric looks at the percentage of deployments that cause issues. Together, these metrics provide a well-rounded view of your team's efficiency and reliability. For Helix, I focused on deployment frequency and lead time for change. So why do these metrics matter? First, they give you a way to benchmark your team's performance against industry standards. Second, they help you pinpoint bottlenecks and inefficiencies in your processes. Most importantly, they support data-driven approach to continuous improvement, which is essential for staying competitive. Now, you might be wondering how to measure these metrics. The good news is that many of the tools you already use, like CI/CD pipeline, monitoring systems, and version control platforms, can provide this data. Automating the measurement process ensures that you get accurate, up-to-date data without extra effort. So what does it take to excel at DORA metrics? High-performing DevOps teams share a few common traits: frequent, reliable deployments, fast recovery times, and a culture that emphasizes collaboration and learning from failures rather than assigning blame. When I started at Taplytics, they were at a medium performance metric with deployment frequency in months and lead time for change in weeks. After implementing feature flags and continuous delivery, the team moved to high performance. Then, over the next year, they moved into continuous deployment and are now at the elite level. Reflecting on the journey, I can see several key factors that work to my advantage and help me contribute meaningful to the project's success. First and foremost, being an outsider offered a unique perspective. Coming into the organization without preconceptions allowed me to assess the situation objectively and identify opportunities for improvement that might have been overlooked by those deeply embedded in the existing process. This fresh lens enabled me to challenge assumptions, ask critical questions, and propose innovative solutions, such as feature flags, that ultimately drove progress. In addition to this external perspective, I brought a clear understanding of what good looks like. Having experienced high-performance teams at places like Hootsuite, I was able to recognize what was missing and steer the team towards best practices, in this case, the use of feature flags. This clearly provided a benchmark for success and served as a guiding principle in decision-making. Lastly, the stability of the Taplytics application was a critical enabler. Because the application had a solid foundation, we were able to focus on these improvements around feature flags rather than firefighting or dealing with constant system failures. These three factors, the outsider's perspective, a strong vision on what good looks like, and the reliability of the Taplytics application, were instrumental in setting the stage for their implementation of feature flags. Again, there are several key areas where I see opportunity for improvement. One of the first things I would do differently is implement DORA metrics much earlier in the process. By integrating DORA from the start, we could have shown earlier success in the implementation of feature flags. Another important shift would be to assign senior developers to lead the implementation. Their ability to navigate complex challenges and knowledge of the existing code base would have ensured a smoother initial rollout and minimized rework after the first attempt at implementing the Taplytics feature flag platform. Additionally, I would place a stronger emphasis on creating a comprehensive end-to-end test early in the development cycle. This test would have acted as a safety net, ensuring our system was functioning as intended in production, building confidence in the stability of the application, but also reducing the risk of costly issues making their way into production. Finally, I would implement canary releases. By rolling out changes incrementally to a small subset of users, we could have identified and addressed issues in the control environment before they impacted the broader user base. This approach minimizes risk, enhances system reliability, provides valuable feedback that can be used to refine the product. Together, these changes represent a strategic shift that would have accelerated our progress, reduced risk, and enhanced the overall quality of our work. They highlight the importance of not just what we do, but how we do it, and offer a roadmap for greater success in the future. 6 months at Taplytics, we reached a critical juncture that defined the future of the company. During a pivotal leadership meeting, we recognized that the industry's needs were evolving, and we needed to adapt to remain competitive and relevant. This realization led us to make a bold and transformative decision, shifting our focus from A/B testing, which had been the core offering, to feature flags. This move was not just a strategic pivot, it represented a deliberate effort to position ourselves within the emerging and rapidly growing space, developer tooling. The decision to pivot was about more than just market alignment. It was an opportunity to rethink and rebuild our backend infrastructure. With a decade of experience in data ingestion and evaluation as our foundation, we were able to design a system that was more robust, scalable, and tailored to meet the demands of modern development practices. This overhaul allowed us to address legacy challenges while implementing best practices that would support our vision for the future. By embracing feature flags, we not only aligned ourselves with the pressing industry need, but also laid the groundwork for sustainable success in a dynamic and competitive landscape. I guess they like the idea. Thanks for taking the time today. Here is a link to my contact info, blogs, and social media.